Okay, you're all set.
Okay. Good morning. On behalf of the Seattle Planning Commission, we'd like to actively recognize that we are on Indigenous land, the traditional and current territories of the Coast Salish people who've lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We offer land acknowledgement because native land was taken by force and colonized to form the United States as we know it today. Through this practice, which is ongoing through systematic oppression, native identity, history, and land ownership has been ignored by colonizers and attempted to be erased. Land acknowledgement is the first step in opposing the systematic oppression and historic erasure of Native people and Native land ownership. Welcome to the individuals who just joined the call, and welcome to any members of the public who are listening in. We are happy to make our meetings open to the public. Please note that the Planning Commission does not hold public hearings since the Commission is an advisory body. We provide recommendations to elected leaders that in turn make the actual decisions. We encourage individuals and organizations to provide their comments appropriately to elected officials. This meeting is obviously a hybrid meeting with some individuals participating remotely while others are in person in the Boards and Commission room at Seattle City Hall. It does look like maybe it's just staff who are in Seattle City Hall this morning, so thank you all for trekking in and making this a publicly accessible meeting. We're going to start with some color brave space norms. And I would like to invite someone to choose and briefly speak to the relevancy of one of these to today's conversation. Who have I not called on in a while? Let's see. Who do we have on there on the line? Nick, I don't know if we've called on you to do this exercise before. Would you be interested in pulling one forward and telling us why it resonates with you?
Sure. I think I will pick practice examining racially biased systems. Systems are what are left after all the people in this room leave. So I think this is a key one to focus on for today's discussion as we are looking to provide comments on a plan that sets the policy direction for the city for the next 20 years. So thanks.
Wonderful. And if there are no amendments to these color brave space norms, I suggest we all use these and keep these front of mind as we work through our deliberations today. All right. On the agenda today, we have two items related to the Commission's review of the draft One Seattle Comprehensive Plan. We will first approve our letter on the draft One Seattle Plan draft Environmental Impact Statement. Following that, we will approve our comment letter on the draft One Seattle Plan. We'll get ourselves warmed up for some official action this morning. If I could get a motion to approve the minutes from the April 11th, 2024 meeting.
Rick
Matt
moves.
motions. Oh.
I heard
Matt
Rick
seconds.
first, and Matt seconds. All right. Any changes or amendments? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? And with that, the meeting minutes from April 11th pass. I know this has been a kind of culminating day for us, so you may not know what's coming next in terms of commission business. I'm going to cover that really quickly. Our next full commission meeting is scheduled for May 9th from 3 to 5:30 p.m. So that's a hybrid meeting format with options to meet in person at the Boards and Commission room at Seattle City Hall or online on the MS Teams platform. I'm pleased to announce that the May 2nd Housing and Neighborhoods Committee meeting has been canceled. I think we all, including staff, could use a break and an opportunity to rest from all of the hard work over the last couple of months. With that, I will ask Vanessa to provide some announcements and cover some commission business.
Thank you, Michaela. As noted before, this is a hybrid meeting. Most commissioners are joining via Teams remotely. Lauren might be joining us in person or might be dialing in. We don't know yet. So during the meeting, there will be opportunities for commissioners to propose specific edits to the draft letters under consideration. We will be using the chat function of MS Teams for all commissioners to do so. If you have a text-specific edit to propose for consideration, please note in the chat what subsection of the letter under consideration you wish to propose an edit, and type into the chat the language you are proposing. Staff and I will group the edits by subsection so that we can move through the letters from start to finish. So I will assist Michaela in going through the various letters, but please do be sure to put your chat or put your edit in the chat, and then you'll have an opportunity to read it out loud. That is just for the purpose of staff to be able to finalize these letters. I also wanted to note that the Planning Commission has 3 upcoming openings and 1 vacancy to fill in the second quarter of 2024. An announcement of openings was posted on Monday of this week, and interested individuals are asked to submit letters of interest and resumes to me by Monday, May 17, close of business. The announcement can be found on our website, seattle.gov/planning commission. What also can be found on our website under the meetings section of our website are the draft letters that we are looking at today. So both commissioners and members of the public listening in can access those letters if you don't have those at the top of your inbox. I've received no public comments so far. And with that, I'll ask Michaela to start the introductions. As part of your introduction, indicate your day job, and if desired, any disclosure regarding your comments during this meeting not representing or representing your employer. These disclosures will be included in our minutes as well as in the letters we intend to approve today. After introducing yourself, please call on a fellow commissioner to introduce themselves. If you're having, because of the tech, difficulty finding out who's on the call, staff will jump in and help. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Michaela.
Okay, good morning. Michaela Daffern, she, her pronouns. I live in Capitol Hill. In my day job, I work in affordable housing policy and planning with King County's Department of Community and Human Services. And I am just disclosing that in my day job, I do support a team, or lead a team that is reviewing and commenting on draft comprehensive plans for all jurisdictions in King County. And I have recused myself from the review of Seattle's plan so I can fully participate in the Commission's activities that we're talking about today, and nothing that I say today represents the views of my employer. And I am co-chair of the Commission, and with that, I will pass it over to my co-chair, David Goldberg. Do we have, maybe David will come back online in a minute. Let's go to Matt.
Good morning. My name is Matt Hutchins. I use he, him pronouns. I am an architect and I live in West Seattle. Let's see. Let's hear from Nick, who's we've already heard from.
Good morning, Nick Whipple. I use he, him pronouns. I also live in West Seattle in the North Del Ridge neighborhood. For my day job, I am a city planner on the east side. Let's see, Rick.
Morning all, Rick Muller, use he, him pronouns. I live just north of the Wallingford Urban Village. In my day job, I'm an architect and professor and chair of the Department of Architecture at the UW. And my comments are mine alone and do not reflect the University of Washington. How about Diana?
Good morning, Diana Quintanar. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Capitol Hill. For my day job, I'm a multimodal transportation planner at WSP. Views are my own and do not represent that of my employer. I'll pass it over to Andy.
Hi, Andy Dannenberg, he, him, live in Northeast Seattle, and I teach at the University of Washington in both public health and urban planning. I will pass it to Zio?
Morning, Sue Alvarez, she, they pronouns. I live in White Center, Highland Park, and my day job is as a designer at Element Architects. All my views are my own. Pass it to Rose.
Good morning. I'm Rose Lucella Whitson, pronouns they, them. I work for Jacobs Engineering, and my views are my own and they do not represent that of my employer. I will pass to, excuse me, Radhika.
Good morning. I'm Radhika Nair. I use she, her pronouns. In my day job, I'm an urban planner at Saber Workshop. Sorry, what is the last thing to contribute? I live in Wedgwood in North Seattle. And
anything to disclose, Radhika?
And I do work on the planning projects for the city of Seattle, but not specifically the comprehensive plan. I will pass it to Jamie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jamie Strobel. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in the future 130th station area, and I work in my day job. I am the Director of Climate Action and Resilience for the Nature Conservancy in Washington. And outside of my day job, I worked on a project to support one of the community-based organizations that contributed to the comprehensive plan update. So, and I'll pass to Monica. Oh, and my views are that of my own and not that of my employer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Sharma. I use she, her pronouns. I live in the Central District. I work in advocacy and organizing around equity in youth physical activity, play, and sports. Is that everybody?
Lauren and David are left.
Okay, Lauren, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Monica. Hi, Lauren Squires, she, her. I live in South Seattle near the Mount Baker Light Rail Station. And my day job is that I lead the Connecting to Transit program at King County Metro. And my views are my own. David Goldberg.
Good morning. David Goldberg, he, him pronouns, co-chair of the commission with Michaela, and I live in the Wallingford Urban Village or Urban Center, depending on how things go with the plan. And I work for the State Department of Transportation, but my views are exclusively my own.
Yeah, Olivia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Olivia Baker, I use she, her pronouns, and I am staff to the Planning Commission. Robin?
I believe Robin had to step away. She is working from home and is helping her son jumpstart his car. My name is Vanessa Murdoch. I am staff to the Commission Executive Director. I use she, her pronouns, and welcome any members of the public. And thank you all commissioners for joining this important meeting at the not so bright hour of 7:30. With that, I'll turn it back to Michaela.
Okay. We have reached one of our public comment periods for the meeting. We provide time for public comments at all of our meetings, but we do not hold public hearings and we're an advisory body only. So I just want to make sure that any of those providing comment today understand that we make recommendations to elected leaders who in turn make the actual decisions. Individuals who make comments to the commission should remember that the mayor and the city council make the decisions. We encourage you to provide your comments appropriately to elected officials. I invite any individuals of the audience now at this time to offer public comment. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. And I'm going to check in with staff to see, do we have anybody queued up for this?
Thank you, Michaela. We do not. I did not receive any email comments, and there's nobody here in the boards and commissions room, so we can move on to the next item.
Okay. All right, I think we have reached our first agenda action item, which is to approve the letter on the draft One Seattle Plan draft environmental impact statement. Per our practice, we're going to take the first 5 minutes for some quiet reading time so that everyone has a chance to refamiliarize themselves with the content. This letter in draft form was emailed to commissioners Monday afternoon and posted as a draft to our website on Tuesday morning. Following our 5-minute review, I will ask for a motion to approve the letter in a second. At that point, we can, I'll ask for any text-specific edits to be proposed into the chat. So please note what page, section, and paragraph of the letter the edit is proposed for. I think I heard Vanessa say earlier, please put the actual proposed edit as well in the chat so we can see it. And I think Vanessa and Olivia are going to assist in grouping proposed edits by section of the letter. As a reminder, content not already discussed by the body cannot be proposed as an edit, as there's not sufficient time to study and discuss as a group new content today. Any proposed edits will be discussed individually, and we'll take a vote on said edit one by one. And then I think we'll take a final vote on the letter as amended at the end of the call. And Vanessa, if I get lost in process, please feel free to step in and correct me. All right. With that, I'm going to ask Olivia to put up our 5-minute clock, and we can have a few minutes to orient ourselves.
So we'll come back at 7:55.
Vanessa, are we going to have a kind of a rollout of the recommendations, like a summary kind of or executive summary?
We do not have that. We haven't planned for that. We will have the letters once the edits have been incorporated will be posted to our website and on the homepage, as well as sent to the appropriate public officials. Commissioners are more than welcome and encouraged to share them with your networks as you see fit. All right, we are at time.
Okay. Gotta get the many screens open. I have to get back to my notes. So to open up the floor for discussion, I'd first like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the letter. Can I get a motion?
Rick moves to approve the letter.
David will second.
Oh, darn, he's too fast.
You have one more chance, Jamie. All right. So, and now would be a good time for folks to start suggesting any changes or amendments to the letter. Please do that by dropping it in the chat and being sure to note the page number. Staff, what else do we want from folks in addition to the page number?
For this letter, page number is sufficient, and
okay.
the general section. And just to note, the reason why we're asking for you all to put your suggested, if there are any edits, to put the language in the chat to assist staff. We're actually down a staff person this week, so we want to make sure, Olivia and I want to make sure we get the language exactly right in terms of what you are proposing and if it gets tweaked. So you will all have an opportunity to read your proposed edit, should there be any proposed edit.
And I think we could use a little bit of clarifying discussion on typos. So I think some of us were in copy editing mode over the last few days as we were looking at the letter. Kind of we've reached that stage now where the final edits are coming in, and some of us have noticed things that may be considered minor or on the bubble. And so Vanessa, what type of typos do you want us surfacing as amendments? If we're proposing to strike a couple of words, is that something you want us to discuss and vote on?
If striking the words changes the meaning of the sentence, then that should be considered by this full body. If it's a typo in terms of grammar or spelling, but does not change the meaning of the statement, then there is no need. You can just email those directly to me.
Thank you.
We've got about 2 more minutes for this. I know we're moving quickly. I do see one proposed suggestion in the chat, so I'll leave it to you, Michaela. You can wait another minute to see if anybody else, and then and there's a question. So
let's start with Jamie's question. You give people a little bit more time to drop stuff in the chat. Jamie.
On page 1. Right up front, the bullet point we have about exploration of racial equity impacts, I'm just curious what we mean by impacts, because that could be interpreted as disparities, racial disparities, or it could be interpreted as impacts of this alternative to changes in racial equity. And so I'm trying to figure out, what are we trying to do, or what are we asking for? Are we asking for a more thorough analysis of what sort of disparities there are, or a more thorough analysis of how these alternatives will change or make better the racial inequities? Does that make sense?
Yeah, Jamie, we're actually looking at the draft EIS letter right now. I think you're on the next letter. So we're on the draft EIS letter, and while we
it says DAEIS comment letter at the top.
There's a bullet point on the racial equity, and it's the second bullet point.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm on the right letter.
So unfortunately, we don't really have time for a broad discussion of what that means. If you want to propose specific text along the lines of what you just said, that would be great. But we've got an hour to work through this letter as well as the comp plan letter. And my apologies that I wasn't tracking which. I thought you were on the other letter. So if you want to take a minute to think about language that you might propose, that would be
I'm happy
great.
to suggest language, but I don't want to suggest stuff that's not in alignment with what other commissioners think we're trying to say here. That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, so any suggestions from you all will be proposed as an amendment to the letter. And so specific text, and then everybody will vote on that specific text. It'll be a thumbs up, thumbs down, and then the letter will be approved or not approved as amended. And that's why we're going to go through each proposed edit so that when we get to the end to approve the full letter, there's an understanding of which amendments were entertained and whether the amendments were then further amended, and then what the full letter will look like at the end.
I'll suggest something in the chat.
Okay. Okay, with that, I am gonna call on Rose.
Hi, I just have a small text transition recommendation. I thought the introduction to the recommendations was abrupt. So I just recommended adding between the headers, areas for analysis and overall recommendations, the proposed text. We identified several areas for improvement detailed as recommendations by topic below.
Okay. I actually can't see everybody's videos. I have like a limit on how many screens I can see. So I think I have to call for a voice vote, Vanessa.
That's fine.
Okay. With that, any discussion or concerns about Rose's amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, that one passes. Thank you, Rose. And that is the only substantive amendment so far. Jamie, I think, do you have one that you want to propose for page 1? Jamie, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can.
Okay.
I don't have something right now, so.
All right. Well, I think with that, I'm going to call for, we have got one amendment on the floor to change the letter. Otherwise, the letter will stand with the direction that staff is empowered to make grammatical and copy editing changes that do not change the end meaning of the letter. Rose is proposing a 2-minute brainstorm on Jamie's edit or on Jamie's issue. Happy to entertain that. Rose, do you have some thoughts or suggestions to get the brainstorm going?
Yeah, I was trying to craft more specific language because I think it's hard to do on the spot like that. And if I understood Jamie correctly, it's that the first bullet doesn't really encompass what the text is about and is maybe not specific. I don't know, Jamie, is that what you were feeling? So I'm trying to figure out how to reword the bullet to match the paragraph or be more encompassing.
Yeah,
maybe with our collective minds.
I'm trying to figure out basically how we add in the phrase, like how this is going to reduce racial inequities. Like, not just what are the existing impacts, right? Like it's how is this actually going to reduce inequities? And I was looking at each of these sentences trying to figure out where to just tag that in, but I'm struggling.
We could add text maybe along the line saying almost exactly that, provide a more complete explanation of racial equity impacts Hold on. My brain is going. More complete exploration of racial equity to reduce disparate impacts.
Yeah, that's better.
So,
Can you drop that in the chat, Rose?
yep.
Okay. I was thinking provide a more complete exploration of how the alternatives reduce racial disparities.
What is that?
That works good too. I just feel like we use racial equity as a buzzword and it's not clear what we're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Okay.
So my suggestion is for one of those to be introduced, either Michaela's or Rose's, and then to take a vote, and then we need to move on.
I wrote it down. I can introduce it.
Thanks, Lauren.
Provide a more, sorry, I'm not on the chat, so I can't put it in there, but this is the second bullet under areas for additional analysis. Second bullet, change it to, so page 1 of 7. Provide a more complete exploration of how alternatives reduce racial disparities throughout the DEIS.
Love it. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Group effort.
I appreciate y'all entertaining me on that.
Okay, so any discussion, further discussion on that amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, with that, the amendment passes. And now I think we've reached the point where we are ready to vote to approve the final letter as amended. So again, I think we already have a motion on the floor, so I don't need to ask for it again. I think I just asked for a vote. So all those in favor, please, sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions on the final letter? All right, with that, the draft EIS comment letter on the One Seattle Plan is approved. One down, one to go. And, you know, I do think we have, as noted by Vanessa, we've got somewhat of a time crunch. So if, as we move into our next silent reading period, I encourage all of us to use that time to actually draft amendments. So we can entertain as many as possible before taking a final vote on the next letter. It is going to work the same way the last one did. And so I think you can also use that 5-minute period to start populating the comment box if you want. It is 8:08. We will come back together at 8:13. All right. My apologies. I know we are at time, but I am still putting 2 amendments in the chat box for consideration later in the discussion. So. Okay. One more and I'm ready to start. Okay. I'm going to call everybody back together. Thank you for letting me take an extra minute. All right, Jamie, get ready. I am going to ask for a motion and a second to approve the draft One Seattle Plan comment letter. Can I get a motion?
I motion to approve the draft Seattle Plan comment letter.
Motion has been a long time in the making. May I get a second, please?
I second.
That
I'm
sounds
gonna
like
go
a
with.
tie.
It does. I know. I'm gonna
Go, Lauren.
go with Lauren. Tenure wins the day here. All right. And with that, I'm seeing in the chat box that we have a request from Vanessa to limit discussion, given our time constraints today. And I'm going to go one by one through what I see in order here. Staff, do we have? Okay, I think maybe we'll go with Deanna's first. Is page 11 the first one?
Yes, and unfortunately, that was one that I did not feel I was the subject matter expert to provide that, and remember leaving the placeholder, and I don't believe commissioners have been able to support what target to include. So just mentioning this to consider what we do with that bullet.
And to clarify for those listening in, how does it read now?
It reads I moved away, sorry. It reads as climate, it's a bullet under the established visionary goals and measurable targets section and the transportation element. We included a bullet for climate action, reduce transportation related emissions by at least XX% by 2044. Prioritize mode shift first, then electrification. Prioritize electrification of public transit. And that's it. I'll leave it at that. And so the XX.
Yeah, I can propose language
thanks,
here. So I just looked up the Seattle's Climate Action Plan, which says Seattle's Climate Action Plan calls for an 82% reduction of transportation greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 from the 2008 baseline. This is equivalent to a 5.3% annual reduction. So the intent of these measurable targets are really just to bring forward where the city has established targets in other plans. So I propose that we say in the third bullet that's labeled climate action, we change it to say reduce transportation related emissions by 82% by 2030 from a 2008 baseline. And then we can provide a footnote to the climate action plan to reference that. So, you can put that in the chat.
Lauren, should it say carbon related emissions rather than
transportation related emissions?
Right. I'm just saying because, you know, there's transportation related emissions for criteria pollutants and for carbon related emissions. And so I was just curious, I think the 82% is specifically greenhouse gases. So wanted to see if that was what the plan that you're referring, the quote
It says
from
greenhouse
is.
gas emissions, transportation
Okay.
greenhouse gas emissions.
Maybe we just say GHG. Okay. If the body approves or agrees with that.
Cool.
All right,
So
we've
I'll
got
just read it out is climate action, reduce transportation related greenhouse gas emissions by 82% by 2030 from a 2008 baseline.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion or the amendment, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. All right, amendment passes. And I'm going to go back to the chat box to figure out what is next, unless staff have a pulse on that.
Looking on page 14, Andy has a proposal.
Okay, Andy, please explain your amendment.
Let me see, which is the page 14 is there's a reference that we've discussed at a couple of meetings about what is a healthy arterial. And I just wanted to add that as a footnote to that section, since you're providing some references elsewhere. That article describes what makes a good arterial, so it gives OPCD something to look at.
Where's the healthy arterial reference on the page, Andy?
Yeah, I sent the full reference to Vanessa. It's something I didn't try to type into the box. It's an article from American Journal of Public Health that written a couple of years ago about
where,
what goes in.
where on the page?
About the
Page
top of the
14.
page where it talks about how to improve arterials. So maybe after the last bullet, just put in a footnote and then put it at the bottom.
Page 14, right underneath Matt's graphic.
Before the paragraph that starts with the city should work to improve quality of life.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that whole section on arterials, just add the reference.
Okay, so at the end of the third bullet.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. Any further? Go ahead.
So I believe the motion is to add a footnote as noted in the chat.
Right.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay?
Aye.
All right, that amendment passes as well.
I had one other one on page 1. If you have a second, it was where they talked about the briefs, and it's sort of we release them, but doesn't say what to do with them. So I've suggested adding a sentence that just says they hope they will review them as they're working on this, because otherwise it's just sort of, well, we released them, well, so what?
Yeah, Andy, just for context, those issue briefs released in 2022
Right.
were we discussed those specifically with OPCD staff, and they were
our pre-letters.
They were our pre-letters, and they were
Right.
well received. But if you want to propose adding that, that's fine.
But it just seems like we're not asking them to do anything. I mean, otherwise it's just kind of, well, that's nice. I mean, it's not important, but it's just sort of saying we hope you'll look at them again because it's been a couple of years kind of thing.
I think they were
Which is why-
intentionally meant to inform the scoping and the first draft of the comprehensive plan. And so they were very time specific.
So they don't need to be looked at again, particularly?
What's the specific language you're proposing, Andy?
I'm just saying we hope they'll review them again as they finish their work, but this is not an important one to me.
Thanks.
Okay, and I think that the text that he put in the chat box is we hope OPCD will review these briefs as they revise the draft comprehensive plan. So I think that's the amendment on the floor. Any further discussion?
I don't know if that's necessary since we know that they've already been briefed on them and reviewed them, but if we feel like it'll be helpful, I'm okay with it.
What was the statement there at the end, Jamie? You don't know if it will be helpful, or you think it will be helpful?
I said if we want to vote on it, we can. I just don't know if that's
a
critical amendment.
Yeah. Okay. I want to respect the suggestions for putting amendments forward, so we'll go ahead and run this through a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. I'm going to say nay just because I think it muddies the water. I'm the only
going to say nay. I'm going to say
Okay.
nay.
I'll join nay. Thanks.
Nay.
4 nays so far. And how many
I
people
hear
do
4
we
nays
have?
and 4 yays.
Great.
All right. Okay, let's go back and revisit it to see if there's new language we can all land on.
Or I can withdraw. This is not important if you want to move on.
Okay, Andy. Is that your proposal, is to withdraw the amendment?
It sounds like people don't feel it's necessary, so that'd be fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. We will withdraw that amendment. Amendment withdrawn. We'll move on to the next.
Next up, Michaela, from what I could read is page 16, and I believe it's your proposed amendment.
Okay, there is we had some earlier discussion around doing some research to try and identify known barriers to developing permanent supportive housing, which is a big critical part of the housing need and the comprehensive plan. And I wanted to have stronger language here about what I think the biggest barrier is, which is the lack of resources to build permanent supportive housing. So I'm proposing in a sentence that currently reads, given these substantial financial challenges, the city should do what it can to reduce procedural barriers and encourage the placement of PSH and emergency housing in more areas of the city. Given these substantial financial challenges that inadequately resource capital operations and services funding, the city should resource all aspects of permanent supportive housing, reduce any procedural barriers, and encourage the placement of permanent supportive housing and emergency housing in more areas of the city. And that is, if you're not able to follow, that is in the chat box if you're looking to see the original text versus the new text. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right, with that amendment passes. I feel like I had saw another reference to page 16.
Yes, Rose, page 16, last paragraph.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just proposed rewording the bolded earthquake preparedness and readiness, swapping readiness with response, since that's what I had intended when I wrote this late at night. But yeah, that's my proposal. Switch readiness with response.
Okay, any discussion?
No, I agree that readiness didn't make sense.
Sorry, it then should also change the second use of the word readiness.
Yeah.
This is Deanna.
Yeah, good catch.
All right, so can somebody state what the new, how it would read now? Under that proposed change, Deanna?
I can, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So the paragraph reads, Part 2 is missing dedicated policy elements tied to earthquake preparedness and change readiness for response instead appearing to lump earthquake preparedness and change to response instead of readiness.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's, I think, the only, I will do a search for readiness just to make sure it doesn't appear again.
There's one more message on, or one more mention of it on page 17 as well.
Oh, that's right. So can the amendment be replace the word readiness with response in all occurrences within the document? I think right now I looked through them. There's only 3 and they all, you know, are applicable.
All right, I saw a couple head nods. No one's unmuting themselves. So I think that the motion as it stands now is to replace all references to earthquake readiness with earthquake response.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That amendment passes.
Michaela, we've got one trying to go back to, we've got David has on page 10, in the transportation section, a proposed edit.
All right, David, please explain.
Yeah, the point we're trying to make is that there should be different policy emphasis for each place type. And when you read this, or when I was reading it, you kind of miss where the place type is referred to, the way it's structured. I'm just simply suggesting we say within neighborhoods, comma, focus on local well-connected networks, or bullet 2, between centers and neighborhoods, do XYZ. So it doesn't change the meaning, but it changes the emphasis.
Sorry, can you repeat what page and paragraph?
Yeah, it's in the chat. It's page 10. It's the bullets at the bottom of the page.
I'm trying to find your chat message, David, sorry. In the bullets, put the place type at the beginning of each. Okay. So each bullet would start with the place type?
Yeah, so within neighborhoods, focus on local well-connected networks, etc. Between centers and neighborhoods, prioritize trips by transit. When I was reading this, I myself was not sure what we were trying to say there until I realized that the place type was at the end.
Does the author, do folks
Yes.
have
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yes.
I definitely felt like that was something I've heard Lauren say.
David just
Go ahead,
made it better.
Wonderful.
So the third one would be between manufacturing. So between mixed major centers and regionally significant transportation facilities, move goods. Like, would we switch that over? Move goods and services? Or would we?
Yeah.
Okay.
May I suggest the last bullet be between manufacturing industrial centers, major centers, and regionally significant transportation facilities such as the port and I-5, prioritize the reliable movement of goods and services.
Perfect.
Okay. So we have restructuring each of the sentences to move the place type to the beginning, and a little more of a substantive, just additional wording change on the last one to mirror that by saying between manufacturing industrial centers, major centers, and regionally significant transportation facilities such as the Port of Seattle and I-5, comma, prioritize the reliable movement of goods and services.
Can we say prioritize the safe and reliable movement of goods and services, Michaela? Sorry to offer that at the last minute.
No, that's okay.
I just don't want to think that we're saying prioritize trucks above all else, because so much of our high crash network is in the manufacturing industrial centers. So it's more about like keep stuff moving, but in a safe way. So I'll just read it back and maybe then we can vote to keep us moving. Sorry. Between mixed major centers and regionally significant transportation facilities, such as the Port of Seattle and I-5, prioritize the safe and reliable movement of goods and services.
Any further discussion? All right, I'm going to ask for a vote for all those in favor to say aye.
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 All opposed, nay? All right, with that, the amendment passes.
Okay, Michaela, we have 36 minutes left.
Yeah.
We've got a transportation comment from David on page 12. A concern Andy has on page 4 at the top. And then we've got a number of proposals in the climate and environment as well as the public health. So that's 4 different amendments. So I'm going to suggest we go and an additional one on page 18. So I'm going to suggest we try to address the ones that are already in the chat and then do another time check. So Andy on page 4 has a concern.
All right,
Yeah,
Andy.
I know this is a big issue and I'll let it be wherever you are, but we're essentially recommending a decrease in housing production. If current production is 8,000 a year, they were proposing 5,000 a year. We're just saying go to 6,000 a year. We're recommending less than current. I mean, would we want to go to at least keep up the current rate? It's bothersome that it's okay to go to less than current rate, but I realize there's a lot behind that. And I'll let it be if you think it should stay where it is.
Staff, do you want to explain how we ended up in the middle there?
Yeah, I'll just note that I believe that paragraph ends by saying study up to at least, or the plan should include at least 120,000 units as studied in alternative 5 of the DEIS. So we're basically saying they should go to the max of what they've already studied. I believe to suggest more would require that they do a supplemental or change what they've studied as far as the benchmarks. So I think that's how we landed on that, but it's open to discussion.
This feels like there would need to be a pretty significant discussion around whether or not we want to recommend a supplemental DEIS. And so my feeling is that this type of comment is probably a little too substantive for us to tackle as a group this late in the game. But I understand why it sticks out to you, Andy, as odd and slightly off. But it's simply because the city chose to not study an alternative that was at least going to result in growth that would at least keep pace with the growth that we've had in the past.
Or could you do a few words that recommend where you are and say, or ideally more, or something like that, that sort of encourages more without pushing it?
I'm looking to see.
Do you want to propose some specific language, Andy?
Yeah.
Just add the words or ideally more, something.
So right now there's a statement that says the city should plan for at least 120,000 units as studied in alternative 5 of the DEIS. If not, should we add a comma to the end? If not more?
Sure.
Okay, so they're Andy?
Yeah, I'm okay with whatever you decide on this. It just was bothersome that we're recommending something that's lower than current amount, but I understand there's a lot behind it, so I'll let it be wherever you go with it.
Okay. It's worth a vote, worth putting it out there and seeing what folks think. So I think the amendment right now would read, the city should plan for at least 120,000 units as studied in alternative 5 of the DEIS, comma, if not more. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed?
Aye. I think it's redundant.
Okay, nay, so, okay, 1 nay. Motion or amendment passes.
All right, the next is page 12. Oh, yeah. Page 12, and in transportation, I think that is, yeah, David Goldberg. He has a question about the point on parking policies. And David, I would just, so please forward your question and propose language that changes it.
Vanessa, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Okay. All right. I'll just put it in the chat, I guess, and we can move on.
I put David a proposal if you want to read it and improve it for that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a wee bit lost. What's happening? Are we doing a typo correction, or are we doing a substantive amendment?
No, it's not. It's not a typo. I mean, the thing that hung me up when I was reading it was the second sentence in the reform parking policies paragraph there in the middle of page 12. The transportation element should adequately address on-street parking and parking demand management. That's
the new language.
There's no new language yet.
Trying to not say adequately address.
Like what I would like for this to say is that it should reflect the land use section policies for off-street parking and establish policies for on-street and parking demand management, rather than just vaguely say adequately address.
Yeah.
And
David?
What?
David, would you mind putting that in the chat, and then we'll circle back after we move through another one, as we've got 20 minutes left and we've got a couple more. That'd be great. Thank you.
If people think it's okay the way it is, then fine, I won't worry about it, but I just wanted to flag
No,
that I
just
didn't know what we meant.
Type up what you just said.
David, if you want to take what I wrote and either enhance it or say that's not what you meant, that's fine. I drafted something that now I'm rereading and it sounds a little run-on-y, so don't want to propose it as such, but under pressure as an English as a second language person, it takes me a minute. But I will read it, perhaps. Just, I was thinking, but I think I agree that the second sentence also probably would require a little bit of rewording. But otherwise, my proposal would be that in the last sentence where it says Seattle is leading its peer cities in the number of cars owned per capita. And so instead of our aspiration around improving the right-of-way need to include parking reforms, would say Seattle is leading its peer cities in the number of cars owned per capita, which requires a comprehensive parking management policy that considers both on and off-street parking that can adapt with the city's growth per area with increased density, in areas maybe, with increased density of employment and housing. Something along those lines.
David, does that amendment address your concern, or do you want to suggest?
It adds more. It adds more specificity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we have an amendment on the table from Deanna to amend the last.
But I read it better than it's written. Let me edit it in the chat.
Okay.
Someone can continue with other comments and we'll circle back.
Okay.
I would also note that David has proposed specific language as I requested. Page 12, under parking, reform parking policies. I think this is in addition, Deanna, not in place of. Second sentence in the reform parking change to The transportation element should reflect those land use policies and establish similar policies for off-street parking and parking demand management.
Okay.
Great.
While you work on something, Deanna, can you include that in your new amendment that you're going to propose? So it's like a whole new paragraph and we're thinking about both of those sentences related to one another?
Okay, so add both the second and the third sentence. Okay.
Yeah. Just don't want us to
Will
be
do.
redundant.
We
Okay,
can
thank
move
you.
along. I'll work on that.
Okay. Is the next one on page 18?
Next one is on actually page 16.
Oh, okay.
Which is in the chat under the timestamp 812. Add headings to the climate and environment section. I believe that's you, Michaela.
Oh, yeah. I think I've made this comment in a couple of draft letters, and I just think maybe people didn't realize I read the whole letter and read down to those places. So the rest of the letter, we have nice little bold statements that if one wanted to, you could probably lift those and say, here's our summary recommendations. And then when we get to the climate and environment section, all we do is bold the subject of the section. And I think for consistency and clarity, we should really pull forward some sort of recommendation statement of what we're trying to say with each of those so it mirrors the rest of the letter. I was not in this work group, so I felt last night when I was like, oh, it still hasn't been addressed, I did not feel super equipped to be making the heading suggestions. So I just typed something out quickly, and I'm not sure how folks feel about these or if they think these are the accurate way to describe the sections. I think I need to say them out loud for the benefit of the public.
Yes,
it would be emphasize, and so I have edits to both the climate and environment section and the public health section. Emphasize mode shift and provide trip reduction detail. Include more strategies to help ensure an equitable transition to zero carbon energy. Support an equitable food system. Articulate a clear and strong commitment to earthquake preparedness and response. Sorry, I think I wrote readiness in here, but we replaced that with response. Acknowledge that affordable housing fosters stable and resilient frontline communities impacted by climate change. Strengthen commitment to achieving racial and social equity and health outcomes. Discourage additional growth in flood-prone areas and support communities already in place. There's a typo in there. Ensure convenient, there's a typo in there, access to food and reduce food insecurity. And then ensure water bodies are safe during extreme heat events. And then moving on to the public health headings, consider noise pollution when assessing health impacts and incentivize the creation of buildings that promote health and well-being. Do folks actually feel like that represents what they thought those goals and recommendations were trying to achieve?
That sounds good.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Jamie, did I get the frontline communities, affordable housing, climate change connection? Is that the connection you were trying to draw there? I was guessing on that one. This is acknowledge that affordable housing fosters stable and resilient frontline communities.
I'm trying to track like where all of our changes are right now. I'm like,
yeah, okay,
struggling to
follow it. I know.
Follow.
I will say that if you go, these edits start on page 17. And so each of these.
Where is your proposed text? I'm looking through the chat trying to find it.
Okay. Timestamped at 8:12. And just look for a bunch of bullets.
Ah, there we go.
And the one I really wasn't sure about was the letter says, acknowledge in part 2 of this element adequate housing supply and options as a climate strategy for healthy, resilient communities. And so when I was summarizing it, I wasn't sure if that was actually what we were trying to get at. All right. You're still thinking, Jamie?
There's also
yeah.
there's also a typo in there. Ensure convince access convenient.
Yeah, there's about 3 typos in there. The way I read it out loud is what I want it to be. Yeah, convenient. All right.
I think that works, but
Okay.
it's not really. It's not just affordable housing. It's like it's also the anti-displacement strategies. Like the importance, it's like the importance of anti-displacement and affordable housing and fostering stable and resilient frontline communities.
Okay, so add that in there to.
I can put it in the chat.
Okay.
All right, I think we have, oh, sorry. So take, moving us too quickly. Need to vote on that.
We do. I feel like Jamie has said out loud what the amendment she wants to make to the bullet point. And so with that friendly amendment in mind to the bullets that I wrote and acknowledging that staff will correct my typos, any further discussion on these headings? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. All right, amendment passes.
All right, just a time check for you all. I believe there are 2 more proposed amendments. Jamie has an amendment on page 18 that I believe refers to the sea level rise and flooding recommendation related to that. And Jamie, I'll let you read it unless you want me to read it because you're trying to compose in the chat.
I can read it. So this one is in our sea level rise piece, talking about the intersection with land use and discouraging additional growth in flood-prone areas. And then afterwards, there's a last sentence that says policies committing to investments and building requirements in these parts of the city subject to sea level rise, such as South Park, should be included in this element. I wanted to propose changing that to policies committing to additional investments and climate adaptive building requirements in those parts of the city subject to sea level rise, such as South Park, should be included in this element. I think the reasoning behind this is that I don't want just like random policies related to that neighborhood to be included in this. I don't think that's enough. I think it's acknowledging that you might have to do specific differences and additional investments in neighborhoods like that are experiencing sea level rise. So that's what I'm trying to get at.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Amendment passes. All right, Vanessa.
Right. I believe the last one is timestamp in the chat at 8:48. It's the refers to the transportation the amendment to the transportation subsection, page 12, that David and Deanna proposed. So Deanna, do you want to read it or would you like David to read it? Because I know you have a hard stop.
If it's a minute, I can read it, or David, if whoever. I just need to drop off at 9, no matter what. So I'll read it just in the interest of time, and then maybe David
Go
picks
ahead.
it up. Okay, reform parking policies at the top of page 12. The second sentence should change to the transportation element should reflect those land use policies, comma, and establish similar policies for off-street parking and parking demand management, period. Third sentence, after the language that reads, Seattle is leading its peer cities in the number of cars owned per capita, comma, the proposed change after that comma is, which requires a comprehensive parking management policy that considers both on and off-street parking and should be flexible to adapt with the city's growth in areas with increased density of jobs and housing.
Great.
Works. Lovely. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. All right, that amendment passes.
Thanks, everyone.
And any remaining amendments, Vanessa?
Not that I see, but the chat is pretty fast and furious. So in the remaining 6 minutes, if I missed anybody, please speak now.
Okay. I think that brings us to our final action of the day, which is we're going to take a final vote to approve the Seattle Planning Commission's comments on the draft One Seattle Comprehensive Plan.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended. As amended. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? No, and with that, our letter is approved.
Woo.
Woohoo!
Wow, big thanks to staff. Amazing.
Great work, staff. Great work,
We
Michaela,
made it.
running it.
Yeah. We were, Vanessa and David and I were like doing a whole bunch of puns and last night of like we could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we just came out of that tunnel. This was a huge lift that involved hundreds of hours across staff and the commissioners. I know that many of us joined the commission because of our ability to shape this specific planning process, and I very much appreciate everybody giving up their personal time to engage in this process. Really appreciate the staff for what I'm sure was many long hours and many long days of reading and drafting letters and trying to put all of our collective thoughts into one coherent voice. And I really hope that this, is helpful to both the mayor and the council. This is part of the sausage making of land use policy, and it is a really, we're playing an important role in a public discourse around shaping the comprehensive plan. So, David, before we wrap up as co-chair, are there any other kind of reflections that you want to offer?
No, I just want to underscore what you said, and again, deep thanks to the staff who just helped herd us all us cats and listened carefully to what we had to say and captured it well and put it in a coherent letter, a couple of letters, and just very grateful to you all.
All right.
Michaela, if I could just say one thing as we're in the final, want to reiterate all the thanks that are in the chat, and thanks to you all. It's been 7 weeks and 2 days that you all have been knee deep or neck deep in these documents and associated reference documents, such as the housing appendix, the anti-displacement framework, and the urban residential neighborhood. I'm saying the name wrong. It's another associated document on the draft One Seattle page. For members of the public listening in, These approved letters will appear on our website on letterhead once they have been edited. Olivia and I have a little work to do based on the last hour and a half to get the letter amended as approved today. And that letter will be sent to the mayor, to other staff, city council members, of course, and will be posted on our on the website, on the Seattle Planning Commission home page website. So look for that, and just want to thank you all for your great work.
All right. Again, thank you so much. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks all.
Bye all.
Thanks,
Thank you so
staff.
much,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.